Pizza NFL on NBC Halftime Report. Brought to you by Domino's Pizza. Domino's, delivering a million smiles a day.
We are happy to add our smiles to the mix. Welcome to those of you watching the Oilers and the Ravens. Greg Gumbel along with Joe Gibbs, Sam Weiss, Chris Collinsworth. Joe is looking at me like I'm crazy. Let's run down the scores and highlights as we have them for you now, beginning with the game. What a shocker taking place in Indianapolis. The Colts all over the Miami Dolphins, 34-0. That's Lawrence Phillips seeing his first action for the Dolphins today, but forget him. Think about Jim Harbaugh. Hits a wide-open Marshall Faulk, 10 yards and a touchdown. Harbaugh open, throwing 9 out of 9 for 109 yards. Harbaugh over the middle, deflected ball, doesn't matter. Ken Dilger is there, 7 yards, touchdown, 17-0. Harbaugh to Dilger. This one is 31 yards, and the Colts jump on top 27-0. And just moments ago, Harbaugh, again, this one an 8-yarder to Ken Dilger, who had not caught a touchdown pass before the game today. He's caught 3. Harbaugh's thrown for 4. The Miami Dolphins do not look ready for this game.
They were worried about it coming in. I said it earlier, it was a scary game because Indianapolis has not quit. Those guys are playing hard. Not only is the offense doing, as you mentioned, but the defense. They sacked Dan Marino 3 times. He only had been sacked 15 coming into this ball game, and he's fumbled it twice away.
All right, Sam, in the Meadowlands, the New York Jets with a 17-0 lead on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Trent Dilfer, questionable up until game time, has made the start with a sprained ankle, but he's just 2 of 12 for 38 yards. Not the same Dilfer, not the same Tampa Bay Bucks team, Chris.
That man still should be questionable in my mind. It's unbelievable to me that Trent Dilfer's still in there after the fact he can't move around with the bad ankle, and he's been thrown 2 interceptions now for touchdowns. But an incredible turn of events this weekend for the New York Jets, who look completely out of it coming in here. All of a sudden yesterday, New England loses. Now Miami's getting blown out against Indianapolis. The Jets will control their own destiny if their score holds up today in the game next week against Detroit.
You know, Joe, it's a good sign for you. If Chris Collinsworth buries you, you can go in and have a pretty good day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we had a good talk now on a pregame show about the Jets.
I don't remember.
I remember it vividly, and it gives me great pleasure to say I told you so. But in any case, the other thing, it's classic Parcells. He's going for it on 4th and 1 down there. Gambling Parcells, also in the kicking game, blocks the punt. Right now, hey, the Jets got going. I think Tony Dungy's got a big decision. I wouldn't be a bit surprised at halftime right now that he's got Steve Walsh in there.
All right, Joe. In Buffalo, the Jacksonville Jaguars are trailing the Jacksonville and Buffalo. No, we'll talk about Dallas first. The Cincinnati Bengals on a touchdown pass from Boomer Esiason to Darnay Scott. The Bengals have grabbed the lead on Dallas. Now, in Buffalo, the Jaguars with a 14-3 lead on the Bills at the break. Mark Brunell trying to lead Jacksonville to the playoffs for a 2nd straight year. A win, and they're in. And on the Jaguars' first offensive play, Keenan McCardle on the receiving end for 60 yards to the Bills' 15-yard line. 2 plays later, Brunell takes it himself around the left side, 13 yards and a touchdown, and the Jaguars with a 7-0 lead. Then in the second quarter, watch the second effort from Natron Means. He completes a 90-yard drive with a 3-yard run. It is 14-0. They have the lead now, 14-3. A battle in the NFC Central. The Vikings are leading the Detroit Lions 13-7. In Baltimore, the Tennessee Oilers trail the Ravens 14-6. And in Atlanta, the Eagles and the Falcons are tied at 7 at halftime. When we come back, we'll hear from Cordell Stewart and Bill Cowher of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But first, we'll step aside for these words from your local station.
The Domino's Pizza NFL on NBC Halftime Report. Brought to you by Domino's Pizza. Domino's, delivering a million smiles a day.
Greg Gumbel back in our New York studios along with Joe Gibbs, Sam Weiss, Chris Collinsworth. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers have to be feeling pretty good right now after yesterday's overtime victory at New England. Prior to that game, Chris Collinsworth talked with head coach Bill Cowher and quarterback Cordell Stewart.
I'd like to have 75 degrees and sunny all the time, too, but that's not football. Good job! That's where it's beautiful! That's where it's beautiful!
Take me back to draft day when you took Cordell in the 2nd round, and a guy with his sort of physical skills coming in, and yet you knew that he also would have the ability to play elsewhere. Was there a little indecision just in the fact that maybe I'm setting myself up for a controversy here?
I don't think so. I think, number one, I know in looking at him, we looked at him as a quarterback, and I remember sitting there, and to be honest with you, watching tape one day, and Chan Gailey had come in, and he was looking at receivers at the time, and he said, I remember him saying to me, he said, you know, there's something special about this kid. And I said, yeah. I said he's not too bad. And so when he was there, you know, we actually talked about the guy in the first round. There was never any thought about any other position other than quarterback until, you know, we got into camp, and then we got into the season, and a couple receivers went down, and you know, and he was just standing there. And
Splash! There he is. And why did I get out there and was warming up with Neil, and they saw me catching the ball. Boy, he went to licking his chops. And one day he came and asked me, and I'm like he said, I was sitting there with a Steeler t-shirt on every week with the Nike shorts and my flip-flops watching the game. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, man, I'm just sitting here. And he asked me would I play, would I help out? And I was like, sure. And before you know it, just took off. Slasher! Look like you run this before. Good job, Slash.
I have to give him credit for being patient, for being unselfish, for doing what was in the best interest of this team. I know it wasn't easy. I know it was very difficult for him for 2 years. And so I think, you know, when he made the decision to let him be the quarterback, there really wasn't any doubt, because for 2 years, everything we asked him to do, he was doing it and being successful at it. And so what made you think that if he's going to be quarterback, that he wasn't going to be successful doing that?
I don't know why it always seems like I always have that power and that will to want to get something done at the end.
I like having a lieutenant at the helm when the game's on the line, because he kind of finds a way of getting things done.
I still believe that what he did, playing the slash role, has helped him where he is today, because he's played in big games. You know, he's played in a Super Bowl. He's played in the high pressure. Yeah, he didn't play quarterback then, but he knows what it's like to go out there in front of these people, and that's why I've made this statement. You know, I don't care what the game is. If he doesn't play well, it's not because it's a big game. It's because he just didn't have a good day.
I understand that you do one of the better Bill Cowher imitations in the locker room. Can we see just a little bit of it?
No.
Just stick that jaw out just a little
We
bit.
still have a few more games. You know, I want to be able to make those few little tiny little mistakes and not, you know.
That was a good choice.
Yeah.
Good decision right there. So I'll tell you what, he's going to be getting more experience as we talk.
Kordell Stewart's kind of a happy guy. Did you ever see the impression?
No, but he did promise, Kordell did promise, that if they win the Super Bowl, we get it in the locker room after the game, and Cowher okayed them. You know, but the amazing thing about Kordell Stewart, to me anyway, is that his mom died of cancer when he was 12 years old, and yet somehow he has become this confident person that is so together. He goes home at night. He's not out running the street. It's amazing how he's kept everything in perspective.
You know, Joe, a couple of years ago, the Pittsburgh Steelers, it was thought to be a disastrous situation. Neil O'Donnell takes him to the Super Bowl. He leaves. Kordell Stewart, with him at quarterback, they may be better off.
They may be better off, and I think some people second-guess that decision to let Neil O'Donnell go. Me being one of them, I thought that was a big gamble. You go to a Super Bowl,